going to build a full stack Next.js application, but the key with this one using Prisma and Postgres is I want to integrate better Auth, specifically Google sign in and test out the email password feature. I think I've used it once, but not that familiar with it, but looking to have a little bit of fun with it today. So we're going to jump in and get things started here. Um, so in the root of the project, in the terminal, we're going to type in the command npx create next app at latest space and dot. And we're going to use the recommended defaults that's suggested and give it a few minutes to finish up with the installation. Hope everyone is doing okay out there. Hey, what's going on, my brother? How you doing, man? Mr. Mez. Thanks for showing love and support, man. I appreciate you stopping by. Got some time on my hand today, so we're gonna get after it and spend some time coding. One of my favorite things to do. No audio? What? Can you hear me now? It should be audio there. Let me know if you can hear it now, man. Sorry about that. Is that any better? It should be good now. My apologies. But it should be good with the microphone and everything hooked up. Just let me know if it's not working. Robert, what's going on, man? Long time no see. How you doing, brother? I hope all is well. You've been MIA. Man, my apologies. Just been a little busy with work here lately, but got a day off, man. So want to make the absolute most of it, of course, and have a little bit of fun in the process. So looks like we have the next application set up and installed. It is successful. So just to test it out, going to clean up the home page a little bit, and then we'll start it on localhost to make sure it's working. We'll get Prisma going and all of that good stuff. So just replacing the default boiler code from Next with to text homepage. And then we're going to go in the global CSS. Yeah, you're right, man. I have a new computer now, so I intend to download this once it's done, clean it up a little bit, and turn it into an actual video that's a little easier to follow along. I don't disagree with it. My computer was a holdback before, but I got this Mac Mini now that has a little more storage and can function a lot better. So videos to come, but I don't disagree, man. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So just going to set a little bit of default styling for the CSS so that it is a little consistent and a lot easier to manage the sizing of it. But we're going to set the body, the HTML, the .app, and the root to have a height of 100%, width of 100%. We'll set the overflow on the X to hidden. That way the page is kind of managed a lot better. And we'll also set the text size to small. No, it's apply. Text small. And let's start this up on the local host to make sure that it is working properly. So we'll type npm run dev and press enter. I'm just going to shift over to localhost 3000 to make sure it's working. 1 second. Hope everyone's having a beautiful day on this beautiful Saturday. Yep, and we see the text homepage on screen, so we are good to go. So the first thing we want to do is let's just go ahead and add Prisma to the project. And per the documentation, using the Prisma ORM with Next.js, it suggests to install the application first of Next, which is what I've already done. We'll cd into the directory. I'm just using the desktop as a directory, so no big deal there. And you'll start by installing Prisma TSX first. So I'm gonna copy this command. We'll go back to our terminal. We'll stop it for right now. And we'll paste in the command per the documentation to install Prisma TSX and saving it as a dev dependency. Give it just a moment. All right, and we'll go back to the docs. The next command is installing the @Prisma extension, the the Prisma client and .env. So I'll copy that now. We'll add this in. There we go. And give it just a moment to finish installing. It's still going. Perfect. Clear. All right, now per the docs, the next thing we need to do is initialize Prisma in the project by using the npx prisma init dash dash db dash dash output. And this is going to generate Prisma inside of the app directory. So we'll copy that now. Slightly different than what the installation process used to be, but love the evolution and a little more control that it does provide. So that's a good thing. So we'll go ahead and set that up now. And paste this in. Give it just a moment. And hope everyone's doing okay on this beautiful Saturday. And it is asking a few questions to set up the Postgres database. Select the region that's closest to you. And for the project name, we're just going to name it My Auth App. Press enter. It is creating the project, and it says that the workspace offer limit reach for featured database. So we'll try that again. Just a second. What's going on, Marcel, man? So for this one, just connecting a CRUD app, but the highlight, if you will be adding in better off. I want to bring in the Google OAuth and maybe GitHub, but I also want to test out email and password. And if time permits, I'll also use the Magic Link email as well. But I want to set up better off and integrate it into a project. I'm just going to do a CRUD project for right now. Over the days to come, it could evolve into something else, but the biggest thing is just setting up better off into the project. And just say my app. That might have been too many. Error workspace offer limit feature database. Let's see something. Um, what do we have going on here? Prisma. Let's go back to the docs. Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. All right. You need to answer a few questions. Yeah, that's what we was doing. It's odd. Let's see something here. Close this out. Back into the terminal. Haven't heard of this one. Let me see something. Fail to run the sub command workspace offer limit reach feature database. Haven't heard of this command before. Let's see something. Let's see something. Let me log in with this. Let's drop a few of these. So it looks like you only get a limited number of projects to set up. Interesting. That's fine. We'll delete a few and attempt it again. The overview. We'll delete this one as well. Project name is app. Give me a second. That's new. I haven't seen that before, but it's all good. We will delete this one as well. Go back to projects. All right, now let's see what we got. Let's head back to the terminal. And we will paste in the npx prisma init command, press enter. Select the region closest to us. We'll go off CRUD. May have a little better results now. It's still setting up. So it looks like it only allows for a certain amount of instances, which is fine. Perfect. So that took care of it. Let's just make sure that we have everything that we need. We should have a directory named Prisma. Let's go to the docs. So this command should have created a directory named Prisma with a schema.prisma file, the prisma.config.ts file for configuring Prisma, the configuration for a Prisma Postgres database, which can be modified, the .env file containing the database URL, in the root of the project, in addition to a output directory generated for the Prisma app client, for app slash generated slash Prisma. So let's just confirm that. All right, so we can minimize this for now. We have the prisma.schema file. We have the .env, the prisma.config.ts, And we also have the package.json. And as we review the package.json, we have .env installed, the Prisma extension accelerate, the Prisma client, and as a dev dependency, we have Prisma. So we have everything that we need to continue and get things going. So let's go ahead and work on that now. Background. Bum, 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 bum. I think it's media source. We're at a good point now where we can go ahead and integrate a database. And the database of choice will be a Postgres Neon database. So we'll go ahead and set that up now. All right. And we'll be using Vercel's Postgres Neon to help us out. So if you go to vercel.com and sign in, it is free to sign in. It's free to have an account. There's a free tier that'll be just fine for this project. I'm paying for an additional tier, but again, that's not necessary in order to follow along or to set up a project for something that you may eventually want to deploy. But once you're signed in, you'll be redirected to your page overview window where you can see all of your projects if you have anything deployed. If you click on storage and then click on create database, this is going to give you the ability to set up a storage, a blob. Well, we won't worry about that today. For now, let's just set up a serverless Postgres Neon, and we'll use this to connect to our Nextjs project. Begin by selecting a region that's closest to us, and we're going with Washington, D.C. We'll click continue. We'll then need to name the project, and I'm going to name it Better Auth App and click create. And it only takes a moment. We're currently done. The only thing we need to do from at this point is integrate the environment variables into the project. So we'll click copy snippet. And of course, it gives us the fail message on the initial attempt. Then we'll click copy snippet again. And then we'll paste this into our .env file that's within the Next.js project. So we'll go back to VS Code, click .env. We can highlight everything within this file, remove it, and then paste in the environment variables that we just copied. We can close it out. So we now have a connection to the database. We'll then need to do a migration per the documentation. We'll go back to it. Well, excuse me, we'll then need to define our schema. So just to test this out, to give us something to get started, I'm going to add a model named user. I'm not going to worry about post just yet, but we are going to add a model named user into the schema. So I'll just copy this, head back to VS Code. Within the schema.prisma file, we'll come down a little bit, paste this in, and we'll remove the post array for right now. Click save. And back in the documentation, we'll then need to add .env to the prisma.config. This is to get access to the variables in the .env file. They can either be loaded by our runtime or by using .env. We'll need to include an import for .env at the top of the prisma.config file. So I'm just going to copy this import, head back to our editor, click on, sorry, I didn't mean to click on that one. Click on the prisma.config.ts file. And at the top, we'll paste this in, click save, and we'll go back to the docs. We'll then need to configure the Prisma client generator. So we'll then need to run the following command to create the database tables and generate a Prisma client. So we'll just copy npx prisma migrate dev, and we're going to name this migration init. And go back to VS Code. At the top, go to the terminal. We can close some of these out. And you can see it has the directions right here in the terminal. It's pretty cool. So we'll just go ahead and paste this in, press enter, give it a few moments. What it should be doing is migrating the schema that we just created in the schema.prisma file to our database. And to test that out, everything seems to be great. We have a database that's now in sync with the schema. To test it out, we're going to run the command npx prisma studio, which is going to allow us to edit the data locally and have the ability to see what actually took place. So I'm just going to copy npx prisma studio to start the Prisma Studio on localhost, and it's usually localhost 555. So let's go ahead and migrate over to that now and check it out. So as you can see, we have a model named user with the field of ID, email, and name. So to test this out, just to make sure that it is working, I'm going to add a record into the database, and we'll just give this a email of the jadad@gmail.com, and for the name we'll just add the jadad. Click save, and we should have one record. Yep. It didn't take the name. Let's try that again. Save it. There it go. All right, so we'll close this out, and let's go back to VS Code. Actually, let's go to the docs to see what's next. So it's suggesting to seed the database. We won't necessarily need to do that. We're going to, I just added one manually to test it out. But if you wanted to seed it, these are the instructions to do that. You'll just create a seed.ts file inside of Prisma, and from there paste in or add the data that you want to seed your database with. And then inside of the Prisma config file, you'll just, inside the migrations object, you'll add a key of seed and a value of tsx/prisma/seed.ts. That's basically just mapping that path to this location so that you have the ability to update the data. And then you run the command npx prisma db seed, but we're not going to worry about that. And you can confirm that it took place or that it was successful not just through the message in the terminal, but also the Prisma Studio, NPX Prisma Studio interface to test it out. And then next, we'll need to set up the Prisma client. Now that we have a database, we'll add some initial data. Oh, now we're ready to set up the Prisma client. With our database set up, we're ready to add some initial data. And we can set this up by using the Prisma client and connect it to the database. So in the root of the project, the doc suggests to create a directory named lib, and inside of it, add a prisma.ts file. So here's the command that you can run if you're using your terminal or if you just want to manually do it. But I'm just going to copy this code snippet, head back to VS Code, and as it suggested in the root of the project, close this, close this. We'll add a directory name lib, and inside of it a file named prisma.ts. Paste in this code, and then now we're getting this error message because it can't find this module. And if you recall, this is the generated command that we ran earlier. So what should happen is if we remove those two dots and replace it with at, actually, let's just remove that and we'll manually type it in. We'll go @/app /generated /prisma/client. And then that cares for the error message that we were previously getting because we now can point it directly to the appropriate module. We'll click save and go back to the documentation. So now we're ready to query our database. So in the suggested example, it's including a page inside of the page.tsx. Looks like a header with the title of super blog and a ordered list with list items of Alice and Bob. That's going to give the basic title and list of users. However, this list is static and hard-coded. We can update the page to fetch the users from the database and make it dynamic. So this is just suggesting to import Prisma and then use the prisma.user client or Prisma client in order to, number one, leverage or get access to the models, and then number two, get access to some of the methods that come along with the Prisma client. So technically, we should be able to copy this code directly and paste it into our page.tsx. And if we refresh the screen, we should have something on screen. So I'm going to copy this code, head back to VS Code, close this file out. Inside of app, inside of page.tsx, I'm just going to highlight and remove everything on screen and then paste in this code. We'll save it. We didn't get any error messages, so it found the appropriate path. And we have a model named user, and we want to gather all users and just see the user's name. So let's go to localhost 3000 just to see what we have. Well, it will help if we start the server. I just realized I don't have it running. So back in the terminal, I have a new terminal. We'll type the command npm run dev to start our server back on localhost and press enter. And it started on localhost 3000. So now we'll go back to the browser and then localhost, refresh the screen and give it just a moment. And we see the text super blog and we see the name of the JADAP. I'm gonna add one more user just to make sure it is working. So in the Prisma Studio, we'll type the command, or inside of it, we'll add a record. The record that we're going to add under email is jace@gmail.com. And the name is going to be Jace. Let's save those changes. It updated successfully inside of the studio. We'll go back to our local host, refresh the page, and we see the text of or the name of Jace on screen. So we've successfully set up the Next.js project, added Prisma to the project, connected it to a Postgres Neon database, added in the Prisma client, added 2 records inside of our Prisma Studio, went back into the Next.js application, queried that data, and we now have the ability to query that information on screen. So that is working perfectly as designed. So now we're at a point where I want to go ahead and integrate a authentication method into the project. And as I mentioned, we're going to be using Better Auth. Give me a moment. All right, so let's navigate to the Better Auth documentation. We'll go here. And we'll click on Better Auth. And so what we want to do now is install the Better Auth package inside of our Next.js app. So we'll click on Docs and we'll go to installation. So we'll begin by using the npm suggested command, npm install Better Auth. We'll copy it. Go back to this code, paste in the command, press enter. Okay. And then next, we'll need to set the environment variables, create a .env file in the root of the project, and add the following variables. So a random value used by the library for encryption and generating hashes. You can generate one using the button below or use something like OpenSSI. I'm just going to generate one, copy it, and paste it into the .env file as suggested. Close this out. Uh-oh. Save it. And then next, create a Better Auth instance. Create a file named auth.ts in one of the locations. We're going to add it to the lib directory since we already have a lib directory in the project. So we'll add a file named auth.ts, and it's suggesting to add this instance inside of that file. So I'm just going to copy it, head back to VS Code. In the root of the project inside of lib, we'll add a file named auth.ts. And just paste that in for right now. Then we'll configure a database. Better Auth requires a database to store the user data. You can easily configure Better Auth to use SQLite, Postgres, or MySQL, and more. We're going to be using the directions for a ORM instance versus the database. So we'll click on Prisma, and we actually can just copy this directly, and we'll update it, excuse me. We'll go back to editor, we'll paste this in. All right, so we'll need to update this, and we should just be able to add /app. That takes care of that error. And then we'll replace SQLite with postgresql. Save it. And better off includes the CLI tool to help manage the schema required by the library. So this is pretty cool. So all we need to do is this command generates a ORM schema or SQL migration. So let's go ahead and see what it does. So we're gonna copy this command and we'll install this in the project. Give it just a moment. Do I want to overwrite it? Yes. All right, so schema has been overwritten, successful. So let's close this out and check it out. Inside of Prisma, schema.prisma. Nice, so it gave us a user model, a session, account, and verification. Perfect. So that's basically everything that we would need in order to manage our users inside of the database. I am going to make a couple of slight modifications just for personal preference. Instead of the ID being stored as an integer, I want to store it as a string. And I do want it to be mapped to @ID. That way it is captured to be unique. And see, it's already good for the session and it's already good for the account. So perfect. And I don't think I need verification right now. Before we'll keep it, it won't hurt anything. I think it's optional, so we don't necessarily have to use it. So let's head back to the docs and see what we have next. This command is required the tables directly available. So we'll need to do a migration at this point so that we can update the database with the new models. So we'll go back to our editor. We can close this out, close this out. We'll do a new terminal. I'll stop the server momentarily. And we'll stop this as well. Let's go and see what command should we run to do our migrations. Even gives the deployment. That's perfect. We'll just run the same command. We'll change the name of the migration, but I'm pretty sure it's the same command. So we'll go back to, we'll copy that, go back to VS Code in the terminal. We'll paste this in. And instead of it being migrate, we'll just change it to auth. Press enter. We'll give it a moment. It's in the process of syncing with our Postgres Neon. You're about to drop the user. User table, which is not empty, 2 rows. You sure you want to apply this migration? We'll go yes. It is now in sync. We have a migration named Auth. So let's run npx prisma studio to see what we have inside of our Prisma Studio to make sure that all of the changes took place. Give it a moment. Let's go over to localhost 555. And as you can see, we now have a model of account session user, which matches what's in our schema.prisma file. So the migration was updated successfully. That's great. So we'll go back to better auth installation. So the authentication methods, to configure authentication methods, you want to use better auth. It comes with built-in support for email, password, and social sign-ins. So we are going to do both of these approaches. We'll be using social provider first, and instead of GitHub, I want to use Google, and then we'll use email password. And we'll also need to add a mount handler. And this is going to handle the API requests, create a new file or route in the framework's designated catch-all route handler. This route should handle requests for the path, API/auth, and then whatever. So we're using Next.js, of course. So this path is going to be /API/auth, and then enclosed in brackets, we're going to have all, and in front of all, we'll have 3 dots. But to make it easy for us, we're just going to copy this as it is written. And then we'll go back to VS Code. Inside of the app directory, as it's suggested, we'll click on folders and we'll just paste in that path, and it's going to automatically create those folders for us. And then inside of it, we'll add a file named routes.ts. Let's copy this code as suggested so that we get access to get and post for our handlers. This is what's going to allow us to sign in, sign out, and gather the user's information. Paste this in. We'll head back to the documentation. The client-side library helps you interact with the Auth server. Better Auth comes with a client for all provider web frameworks, including vanilla JavaScript. It's pretty cool. So we'll need to create a Auth instance. I think that should be pretty straightforward, but let's test it out. So inside, we'll go back to VS Code. Inside of lib, we'll add a file named auth client.ts. As it suggested, we're going to import create auth client. This should be coming from betterauth/client. We'll also leverage Next cookies to help with managing the user's information. We'll be taking advantage of Next with that. And then in order to gain access to this throughout the project, we'll just need to export const auth client. And we'll set it equal to create auth client. And we'll be using plugins, and then we'll call next cookies. Click save. All right, perfect. So with that set up, we're now in a position to where we're ready to go ahead and bring in the authentication methods. And as I mentioned, we're going to be using the Google social sign-in, and we're also going to use email and password. So let's go ahead and set up. I think we'll start by setting up Google first. To the docs. And we'll click authentication. And we'll be using Google. And then all we need to do is well, first we'll need to use Google as a social provider. You'll need to get your Google credentials from the Google console. So we'll click on that link. It automatically logged us in. It's free to set this up. I already have a instance set up, and I probably reached my limit between school projects and personal projects for one person or another. So I'm just going to use a instance that's already set up to paste inside of my editor, but feel free to set one up, or you'll need to set one up on your own. And if you're not 100% sure, it's very simple to walk through. The big thing is you want to set your callback URL and your localhost origin. So if I click on this, as the doc suggested, your authorized JavaScript origin, make sure it's localhost 3000 or whatever your local development server may be on. And then the redirects, you want to have one set to localhost 3000, and the other one is going to be the callback, which is API/auth/callback/Google. So, and once you have that, you'll save the project, and that's pretty much all that you'll need with it. And what you want to grab from that is the credentials, which will be the client ID and the secret. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the secret first, since I have it listed right here. Well, it appears that I may need to set a new secret up. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and grab the client ID first. We'll go to .env. We'll paste this in. I'll save that. We'll go back to the docs. And I'm going to add the Google client ID. Sorry. We'll go back. Inside of .env, let's just paste this in. And then next we'll need to grab the Google secret. So I think that is Google underscore secret. Oh, it's client secret. Google underscore client secret. All right. And we'll need to grab this client secret from the console. But it appears that Google has made it so where if your download is no longer available, you've lost the secret below, please add a new one. So we'll just add a new secret. And we'll discard, well, I won't discard it. I'll just copy this client secret, head back to our editor, paste it in. We'll close that out. All right, and then now we'll just need to bring in the client secret, or excuse me, the configuration for the social provider as the documentation suggested. So I'll just go to back to the better off file page, excuse me, copy this. Actually, we'll just copy the social provider information. Make sure that's copied. We'll head back. Sorry, wrong one. We'll go to lib and then auth.ts. And underneath the prisma adapter for the database object, we'll paste this in, and we're using the social provider. And instead of it reading as street, I'm just string, I'm going to remove that and replace it with a explanation mark. Remove this. We'll close this out. And I think at this point, we'll go back to the docs. We should be ready to test it out. To sign in with Google, you can use the sign in that social function provided by the client. You sign in with the token ID. Yeah, so we're ready to test this out. So let's go back to VS Code, and inside of the app directory, I'm going to create a folder named underscore components. Yeah, we can put it here. I was trying to think, did it make more sense to store this in the root of the project or in this directory? But either way, it should be fine. We'll add a file name, Google btn.tsx. And this will be where we'll store our sign in button. We'll store it in one file, sign in, sign out, just to keep it simple. But before that, let's go ahead and go back to our page.tsx, and we actually can highlight and delete everything on this screen. And we'll start by creating a export default, and we're going to make this function async because it's going to be server rendered and we'll be waiting on some data back. We'll use the keyword function and we'll name this function home. Let's return a div with home page for now. And then we'll need to import a few things to test this out. We're going to import auth. That should be coming from our lib directory. So at /lib/auth. We'll bring in headers. This is going to come from next headers. We'll also, for right now, yeah, that's fine for right now. Inside of the home function, let's get access to the session object. So we'll go const session is equal to await auth dot API dot get session, and this is what the documentation suggested. Yep. And we'll pass in headers. And for it, what I want to do is go const user is equal to session. If there's a session, we want to display that user. Shouldn't be a dot there. Sorry about that. That's right. Headers, we're going to await headers. Sorry, basically what we're doing there is we're just leveraging Next.js headers to kind of help manage the cookie information via Next.js versus any external or additional libraries. So one of the benefits of using Next.js just makes it a lot simpler with that. And then we'll say, just to test this out, let's remove the home page. And we'll want to have some JavaScript. So we'll add the curly braces. We'll say if there's a user, we want to show something on screen. This is going to be sign out. And if we don't have a user, we want to show sign in, right? All right, so let's go ahead and start our project on the local server. So in the terminal, we'll type the command npm run dev. All right, and let's go back to our local host. All right, so we see sign in on screen because we don't currently have a user that is signed in. So let's go ahead and add the sign in button to make sure that we have the ability to sign in. So inside of, let's go back to VS Code, sorry. Inside of the Google BTN button, as I mentioned, this is where we're going to have our sign in and sign out buttons. We're going to store them here for right now. So at the top of this file, we'll mark it as use client because we want some client side activity just so that we can show the loading state of the signing in process. And the first function we'll create is export function will be to sign in. So we'll just name this function sign in with Google. We will just for right now return a button. This button will just have, for right now, sign in with Google. And let's go ahead and import this inside of the page.tsx so we can use it here versus just hard coding it. So at the top of this file, we'll import sign in with Google. And let's access that component. Click save. And let's go ahead and head back to localhost. And as you can see, we have the sign in with Google button on screen. So that's perfect. All right, now let's add the functionality so that we actually can sign in with Google. So inside of this, we'll need to have um, we'll need to just add a couple things. The first one is going to be optional. We're going to have a loading state. You don't necessarily have to have a loading state, but I just prefer to have it so the user can know that we're in the process of doing something that just enhances the overall user experience. So we'll start by importing use state, and that's going to come from React. And I don't think we need anything else as of yet, but of course, if we do, we'll always bring it in as far as front end hooks. But for right now, I do need to import the auth client, and that should be coming from @/lib/auth-client. Inside of the sign in function, let's create a const name loading and set loading. And this is going to be set equal to use state, and the initial state of it is going to be false. And then now we just need a function that's going to, that we can store as a variable and pass it into the button that once we click, it's going to do something. So we'll create a const name login, or excuse me, on login to keep it better from a naming convention. And this is going to be set equal to async. Thought I was having a visitor. I guess not. So we'll set this equal to async. Um, and inside of it, let's just add a try catch block. Inside of the try portion, I want to set the loading indicator to true because I wanted to do something indicating that we're trying to load something at this point. And then from a login perspective, we want to await the auth client and we want to get access to sign in. And we're using social sign in. And we'll set, we want this to get access to the provider. And the provider is going to be Google. And then in the catch portion, if we get an error, we'll just go console.log error signing in, and then we want to see that error message, and we'll set the loading at this point to false because we know that we couldn't sign in, so there's nothing else for us to attempt to display to the user. We have something that we can show at that point. So now I need to pass this on login function to the button that's going to manage it. And we have it listed here. So we'll go inside the button, pass in the on click method, and we'll pass in the on login function that we just created. We'll use disabled, and we want to be disabled loading at this point once we click it. And we can go ahead and just give this button a little bit of styling. We'll give it a class name. We'll go padding on the X of 4, on the Y of 2. We'll set the background color to orange, ORANGE, 300. Let's make it 600. And set the text color to white. We'll make the font medium, DIUM. And we'll also say disabled opacity. We'll set that to be 50. And if we hover over the button, we want to set the background to orange. I want to put order 700. Let's click save. And really, this should be all that we need in order to log in. The last thing I want to do is we'll replace the sign in text. I'm going to add some JavaScript and do a little bit of conditional rendering, just saying that if we are attempting to load, I want to show something to the user. I'm going to show 1 moment. Otherwise, I want to show log in with Google. Let's click save, and this should be all the functionality that we need in order to log in successfully with Google. So let's just save this and test it out. We'll refresh the screen. It's not showing any colors there, but it is showing the appropriate text. Let me go back. I'll change this to neutral. TRAL. Let's make this neutral. Maybe something else I need to do with tailwind. And it's still not showing it. That's okay. Let's just test the functionality. We'll click sign in. We get 1 moment. It is redirecting us. This is the name of the Google Console project that I already had in place, live blog. We'll click sign in. We'll click the person we want to sign in with. And then now we see sign out. So to test this out, we'll need to load the Prisma Studio to see if we have a new user that is persisted in the database via the Prisma adapter. So let's make sure, let's go and see if we already have it running. I'm going to refresh the screen in the Prisma Studio. And as you can see, we have 1 account, 1 session, 1 user, and no verification. If we click on the user, we see the JADAD is there. So that seemed to work successfully. Now let's focus on adding the sign out capability inside of the component. So we'll go back to VS Code, and we'll need to create this function very similar to what we just did. We'll just go export function sign out button. I'm just going to return a button that reads log out. And let's import this inside of the page.tsx. Sign out button. I'm just going to replace sign out with this text, or excuse me, with this component. We'll click save. And then now let's just go back to our local host. Perfect. It's now showing this button. All right, so now let's just add the functionality to log out. So inside of the sign out button, very similar to what we already have, first thing we want is a const named loading that will be represented by state or representing state. We're passing false. And then we'll need to create a function and we'll have it stored to a variable that's going to handle that logout functionality. So we'll go const on logout and set it equal to async, create an arrow function, and we'll have a try catch block. And very, very simple, the same thing that we did earlier. We'll set the loading to true at this point because we are loading, and then we'll go await auth client dot excuse me dot sign out. That's the method we want to get access to. And with this one, I want to leverage fetch options, which is a object. And then on success, if we successfully log out, we have the ability to redirect the user if that's something that we choose to do. And the way you would do that is you can redirect them a few ways, but I just like to use the router in order to do that from Next.js. So we will go ahead and import use router, and that should be coming from Next Navigation. And then inside of this, let's gain access to it by creating a variable named router and set it equal to use router. Here we go. And inside of that fetch option object, excuse me, if we're successful, we want to redirect or we want to route the user somewhere. You can change this. I do intend to change it as this project continues to grow. But for right now, we're just going to redirect the user back to the home page. And then we'll also go router.refresh just to refresh the window. And that cares for the try portion. That's all that we need. Now we'll just need to update the catch. If we get an error, we'll say console.log error logging out. And we'll log that error to the console. And we'll set the loading state to false. And then now let's just pass this function into the button so that we can have a way to leverage it. We'll go on click. We'll pass the on logout function and we'll go disabled. It's going to be loading. And I'm not going to worry about passing any CSS or any styling. Looks like my tab might have to do something extra with the tailwind configuration with the latest version of Next, so that's all good. But I do want to conditionally render something if we are loading. So if the state is loading, I want to show something else. I want to show something else. If it is showing, if we're in the process of logging out, I just want to show logging out to the users so they know that that's what's taking place. Otherwise, we'll say log out. Let's click save. And inside of this page.tsx, I think I want to get access to the user email as well, just so we can confirm it. And this will be user.email. And then right here, we can just show user email. Click save. Now let's go to our localhost 3000. And as you can see, we're currently logged in with the JADAD. And if we click log out, we show logging out. And then now it is showing the login with Google. So we'll click logging in. I'm going to select a different user this time. And now we're showing the new email address of jdumb12@gmail with the logout button. Let's make sure that that user actually is saved in the database. So if we go to the Prisma Studio and refresh the window, you see that we have 2 users now stored within the database. And it isn't storing the current session of the JADAD because that user has been logged out, but it was capturing the user that is signed in. So that's perfect. So with this, we've successfully set up the login, log out capability with Better Auth via Prisma Postgres database. I think next, let's go ahead and integrate email and password so that we have the ability to display that user. One second here. All right. To the Better Off docs. And it should be email password. So email password authentication is a common method used by many applications. Better Off provides a built-in email password authenticator that you can easily integrate into your project. So I'm assuming that we don't have to worry about any decryption and all that good stuff. It looks like Better Off is caring for that for us. So let me go